Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Goal Line Hockey, and congratulations to the 2019 Stanley Cup champions. The St. Louis Blues have won the Stanley Cup this year, winning Game 7 of the Stanley Cup final in Boston. We'll take a look at the history this season for the St. Louis Blues, the amount of controversy they've had to go through, the rumors about possible trades when I started this channel. So, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe, and let's dig into the St. Louis Blues roller coaster of a season. Okay, so to start things off, the easy thing that everybody's been talking about, January 1st, this team was dead last in the NHL. You got 31 NHL teams, they were 31st in the NHL. Things have turned around a little bit for the Blues since then, but they had their struggles, and the biggest thing really was goaltending, in my opinion, and I've talked to other people about it. It seems like goaltending was the biggest problem for the Blues, but let's dig a little. There's a little bit more to that, so let's talk about it. So, I remember back when I started this channel, back in December, January, this team, I remember talking about the rumors of trading a guy like Colton Parayko to the Toronto Maple Leafs, or just moving those guys out. Alex Pietrangelo, the captain, Vladimir Tarasenko. They were looking to see what offers were available for him. It's pretty crazy to think that, less than 6 months ago, these guys were available for a trade, and it's unbelievable how things have changed there. And Ryan O'Reilly, he was rumored. He's not a great leader. He can't win. He was in Buffalo, got traded over the summer to the St. Louis Blues. It looked like a pretty even trade, probably favoring Buffalo. They got some really great prospects out of that. Tage Thompson being one of them, who I believe would be a really great player. Fortunately, players like him and the other, Patrick Berglund was in the deal as well. He's not even playing for the Sabres at this point. He's gone back home overseas, so Buffalo really, looking back now, probably didn't do so well in the Ryan O'Reilly trade. But back in the day, back in December, the Sabres looked like they won the trade. They were toward the top of the NHL, competing with the Tampa Bay Lightning there at the top, and the Blues were at the bottom of the NHL. So, it's pretty easy to say that the Sabres probably won that trade. And with that, Mike Yeo was fired after he didn't even get 20 games. He was 7-9-3 in his time with the St. Louis Blues. He wasn't there very long, but long enough to leave them in a pretty tough spot early in the year. Craig Berube hired as the interim head coach of the St. Louis Blues, and things start turning around from there. Calls up Jordan Binnington. Jake Allen gets injured. He's struggling. He can't seem to get his groove there in St. Louis. Carter Hutton left in free agency the year before, and the goaltending was once again an issue for the St. Louis Blues, and it was glaring. And Jordan Binnington was just a fill-in guy. He was just going to come up, finish the year, just get this season done with. We want to forget about this, and we'll see what options we have over the summer in terms of a possible trade. Hold on. Doug Armstrong gives the team another little crack at it before he decides he's probably going to make some big moves. And best decision that Doug Armstrong has made as a general manager, because once Berube comes in, once Jordan Binnington gets called up, the St. Louis Blues are a completely different hockey team. And from January, I'd say 12th to yesterday, the St. Louis Blues have probably been the best team in the NHL by far. So now it comes to the playoffs. So they make the playoffs. They almost win the division. Crazy thought considering where they were back in January. But they almost won the Central Division. Unfortunately, they weren't able to win. But it took the last 2 games to decide who was going to win that division. So it was a really tight tight finish there for the Blues. They just missed it. And they would have to play the Winnipeg Jets in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. If you want to check out my playoff predictions, you could see how absolutely horrible I am. And I can't tell the future because I got almost all of them wrong. So you could see how awful I am in terms of my predictions. But they would play the Winnipeg Jets, and they would win that series in 6 games against the Winnipeg Jets. And Winnipeg they couldn't get pucks past Jordan Binnington, and this starts to become it becomes a pattern here for Jordan Binnington. So they win the first round in 6 games against the Winnipeg Jets, who are a very highly touted team coming into the playoffs, probably one of the top 5 Cup favorites, and they knocked them out. Second round, they play the Dallas Stars. And again, it was kind of up in the air. Dallas really wasn't supposed to get into the second round, but they found a way. They beat the Nashville Predators, who won the Central. So now, St. Louis is playing a wild card team in the second round of the playoffs. So I did have the St. Louis Blues winning that series. And to make things better for the St. Louis Blues, it took Game 7 and Patrick Maroon, the hometown guy from St. Louis, signed less money over the summer last year to stay with the St. Louis Blues, have his family grow up in St. Louis, and the team, he clinches the second round for the St. Louis Blues, sending the team to the Western Conference Final. So, pretty big deal there for the Blues. Really exciting moment there for Patrick Maroon. One of the top moments in the playoffs this year by far. Now they get to the conference finals, so the third round against the San Jose Sharks. Now, a lot of the favorites got knocked out in the first round, and San Jose was one of the last teams that was pretty much a favorite heading into the season. Guys like Erik Karlsson, Brent Burns, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, Justin Braun on the back end, a really great team. And once again, Jordan Binnington shuts the door. He outduels Martin Jones, and they have it. The St. Louis Blues are heading to the Stanley Cup Final, defeating the San Jose Sharks in the Western Conference Final in 6 games, winning that Game 6, by the way, in San Jose. And now, the Stanley Cup Final. The Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. The last time we saw that series, things didn't go so well for the St. Louis Blues, being swept by the Boston Bruins, and Bobby Orr back in 1970 with the, flying across the crease goal. Probably one of the most iconic moments in NHL history. And the Blues got their revenge for 1970, winning the Stanley Cup here in 2019. The Stanley Cup champions, the St. Louis Blues. So, an unbelievable ride for the Blues. And it doesn't end there. Remember that guy Ryan O'Reilly? He's not a good leader. He can't do it at the NHL level with, he's a great player, but he's just not able to be the leader that gets teams to win. Ryan O'Reilly wins the Conn Smythe Trophy as the most valuable player in these Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, there's tons of arguments you can make about Tuukka Rask or Jordan Binnington because they were both so good. I think really the only, and this is no discredit to Ryan O'Reilly, but I feel like the only reason that he kind of won, it was down to him or Binnington after the Cup, because Tuukka Rask did give up 4 goals in Game 7, and we talked about how it was pretty much a lock even if he lost. I don't know if we're going to see that ever again. I feel like maybe, but I don't see it. It's probably going to go to the winning team. It happens so rarely, especially nowadays. But really an unbelievable season for the St. Louis Blues. The city of St. Louis really deserved this. They needed this. The whole Play Gloria thing they ride around, the little girl, Layla. That, it's an unbelievable story for the Blues, and just everything that's happened this year for the Blues has been, welcome to the NHL. If you're a Seattle fan, getting ready for your team coming in the next couple years, this is NHL hockey. Every team has their high moments and their low moments, and the Blues has definitely had both. So, congratulations, you stopped the Boston Bruins, another Boston champion in Boston this year. So thank you to that, coming from a New Yorker. It's been tough, but anyway, I would like to give some credit to the Boston Bruins for an unbelievable series. Winning Game 6 in St. Louis was no easy task, and myself and many others included pretty much thought Boston had this series after winning Game 6. They did it in convincing fashion. They won in St. Louis. They're coming back home, one of the craziest sports cities in ever, really, not even in just the NHL, just ever. And the St. Louis Blues were able to build a lead, and they were able to hold it, and that's what we've seen, the textbook hockey from the St. Louis Blues most of the season. So, thank you for watching us here at Goal Line Hockey. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe. And let me know, how do you feel about the St. Louis Blues winning the Stanley Cup? Like I said earlier, congratulations. It's been way too long for the Blues. They had a couple chances back in the 90s to win a Stanley Cup. Weren't ever able to. Obviously, back in the 70s, against the Bruins and things like that. So, definitely long overdue for the St. Louis Blues. And congratulations on your first Stanley Cup win. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.